And now, the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
So we got some feedback from listeners, which we asked for, about whether or not the whole June Edith, what happened there. So this was when we were talking about
June dying.
Yeah, when we were talking about back in part 3,
Of
part
Here
2
Today. Yeah.
of Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. I think it was part 3. Edith comes up as this character, and I was reading on the AIO wiki that she was the last person to talk to June Kendall before June Kendall died, and I was like,
What?
that's crazy. But then, like, she isn't, like, credited on that episode as being mentioned, which the AIO wiki is usually better about. And so I was very confused about this whole thing. And so, awesomely enough, we had 3 different listeners reach out.
3?
I know.
Can we give them names?
So we had our buddy Will,
Yeah.
longtime fan, Gracie of the blog fame, and another person who signs off an anonymous fan. So I will not read their name.
Oh, awesome.
But they all brought up the fact that life expectancy part 1
Yeah.
is, I think it's a 3-parter.
Yeah.
Where like they're going through Connie's going through her mom's death. Mm-hmm. And June is not in those episodes at all. Like the voice actress didn't come back for that or whatever. Like she's
dead
just
in real life? Do we know this?
I don't think so. I think she's just quite old.
That's fair.
But I could be wrong about that. You guys know where to find me.
Come back.
And so she, so the episode, I went and listened to just like the first like 5 minutes of the episode, so that I could, get the firsthand rather than the recounting thing. But she had a heart attack during a Bible study that her and Edith had been having pretty regularly. I guess it's like bi-weekly or something. And this is like an established thing in the show. That somehow Edith Sutton and June Kendall
Friends with Wit. Edith's
Right.
trying to use June to get to Wit.
Probably. They have a Bible study. And so June had a heart attack during that Bible study, and the ambulance was called to take her away, and Wooten witnessed it all and recounted that to Connie.
Okay.
And so he's the one who mentions Edith by name.
Interesting.
But
that is a deep cut.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and now I'm like, I wonder if, like, I can't imagine they just made that pool for that episode.
Yeah.
Because that was like 3 or 4 years. No. 300 episodes later. Like,
yes. No, more?
No, we're in the 500s. I think that one's in the 8s.
Yeah.
It might be in the 7s. Regardless, it is a big gap.
Yes.
So I have to assume that it's a thing that's been like mentioned throughout a bunch of episodes and is just not credited on the wiki. But yeah. So yeah, she had
actually, we have it confirmed.
Yep.
This is not a random conspiracy theory or headcanon. We know.
Yeah. So that is
now
all.
that you're sad,
yeah.
let's get into the pod.
Yeah. Oh, hi there. Welcome to the pod. I'm Dylan James Weaver, but most folks around here just call me Dylan. Why don't you get the whole family together and join us for another exciting episode of the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
I'm Andrew Sabo.
And we're back this week.
Very happy.
And apparently peaking. I'm going to bring my audio down just a wee bit.
Just a wee bit.
All right, we'll try that on for size. All right. So we're talking about episode 527, Black Clouds.
Thank goodness. I thought I almost listened to the wrong episode for a bit. I was very worried. Because Mitch isn't in this episode at all.
Correct.
And I was like, this is right?
Yeah, I mean, we're throwing it in under the Connie and Mitch thing because it's part of this, like, Color Saga road trip.
Yeah.
But Mitch is not mentioned. But it's the follow-up to the previous episode with Connie and Joanne on this road trip. We maybe could have skipped it, but, No,
for continuity's sake, I think it's worth giving it context. I thought about it after the fact. I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
No, I'm down for covering it.
It was a good episode. I enjoyed it.
I did too.
Thesis statement, good episode.
Episode 8 of album 41. It was written and directed by Bob Hoose, and first aired October 4th, 2003.
Is Bob Hoose... He doesn't have his own particular arc that he does. Like, Kathy Buchanan does the Connie and Mitch stuff.
No, I don't know that there's... I could see if there's anything on the wiki real quick.
As to what his stuff is.
Yeah, as to whether or not there's like a thing he does. Yeah, there's not a whole ton of continuity to what Bob Hoose covers, what he doesn't. He only came on as directing the show in like around episode 500.
Okay.
He had been a producer basically,
for a while.
Well, from the beginning of Novacom.
Yeah.
His first credited producing episode is Grand Opening.
Oh.
And then he produced like straight through Novacom stuff and then started directing in the like after episode 500.
Interesting.
And has written a lot of the episodes he's directed.
Wow.
But yeah.
Well, with that out of the way, do you want to roll the promo?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
A runaway, a storm, and a lesson.
Oh, a light! Struck by lightning. Millard Fillmore.
At the perfect time, an answer.
But I'm bad luck.
Lindy, you're God's purpose in disguise.
It's a matter of trust that reveals purpose. Coming up on the next Adventures in Odyssey.
I mean, I like the music.
Yeah, what? Like, it's like an action movie?
Yeah.
It sounds like an 80s, like, action movie trailer.
It actually, like, it reminded me weirdly of, like, the vibe from the Last Chance Detectives.
Yeah, very much so.
Which is, like, a Odyssey spin-off, kind of. Because everything focused on the family puts out is in the Odyssey universe.
Thank goodness.
But it was them, I don't know, I think trying to have more mainstream appeal in that.
Yeah.
Trying to make like a more mainstream
It was
drama.
a less biblical thing.
Yeah.
It was more of a radio drama and more action and stuff.
They're really fun, and maybe we'll have to cover those as like a Patreon bonus episode or something.
There you go. Our $10 goal a month is so we can have the AIO club, what is it?
OA club.
OA club, and then our $20 a month goal is for us to cover the Last Chance Detectives.
What's the? Is it?
How much is?
Oh, it's the OC. That's right. I was like, what is the OA is almost another thing, but what were you saying?
How much is the Odyssey Adventure?
I think it's $10.
I thought it was 10. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
there you go.
You don't need to write in about that one, folks. We can Google it.
Yeah, we can look it up, but we cannot get it, so doesn't matter. It could be $100 a month, and it would not matter. Yeah, so this episode comes in on a cold open of Connie and Joanne in the car. They're driving unpresumed location, middle of nowhere. My guess is like 95 East is my guess. Actually, I don't know if 95 East runs that way. But, anywho, they're in the middle of nowhere. There's a giant thunderstorm. Connie is terrified of thunder, which, do we know this? I feel like we know this. Or maybe it's just in Connie's character to be scared of thunder. I
Yeah.
feel like it's been mentioned before.
Yeah,
though.
I think that might be a runner that she doesn't do storms well, but who knows? There's too much Odyssey.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Like there's. I feel like there's an episode where there's a storm at Wit's End and the window breaks and all that.
yeah, they do these sorts of everyone's trapped inside with no power episodes.
Quite frequently.
Yeah, with like a level of regularity. Like
It's a good plot device to get people to use their imagination.
yeah. It's like a fun bottle thing, and like a lot of times it's like framework. There's the one I think where it might be a snowstorm.
Yep,
but
they're snowed in, yeah.
where they're snowed in and they all like tell like stories of their like first romance or whatever.
Yeah. Is that the triangle?
No, it's not the triangle. It's it doesn't matter.
It
but
doesn't matter.
It's I'm sure I could
Tweet
find it
at
if
us.
I cared.
If you know it, tweet at us.
We're gonna get so many tweets.
At the Wad Fam Chalkpot. Maybe 3. I don't know. I mean,
2 of those were emails, but
that's true. Oh, wait. One of them actually tweeted at us.
yeah.
Wow. Anywho, Joanne is not scared of storms.
Yep.
Connie very much is.
Yeah.
Joanne tells a story about, as a child, lightning striking between the screen. Like, she's standing in the door. It strikes between her legs and scorches her dog's paws.
Yeah.
Which, is the dog dead? Presumably, if it was hit by lightning, it would be. Was she not electrocuted? Lightning's pretty powerful.
The whole thing, I'm just like, I don't.
Is this just
believe
one of those
this.
like old person things where they're like, back in my day, we played with dirt instead of toys, and it's like, well, just because your toys were bad doesn't mean you can call them dirt.
She also brings up like they're like, this is nothing compared to what I experienced in India.
Yeah.
And Connie mutters name dropper.
Yeah.
Which is so funny.
Oh, it's such a oh my gosh,
delightful. I was highly amused by that.
Connie is not here for your mission strip BS.
Nope.
Not.
Nope. But Katie Lee liked us on Facebook.
I know.
Name dropper.
I will get name drop that. We name dropped it last week. We'll do it again. I'm here for it. We love you, Katie Lee. You do a great job.
Come on the show.
Please come on the show. That would make my year? Maybe year. I don't see like anything nuts happening in this coming year.
Yeah,
it could actually be the best thing.
And so during this whole conversation, it's storming, Joanne doesn't care, whatever. And then there's like a swerve and like screaming and like
yeah.
And then we go to the intro.
Yes.
Which is a Wit intro?
Yeah, and who's not in this episode?
No.
He's only mentioned like twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's only mentioned he's mentioned once to explain why it's called Wit's End.
Yeah.
And another time because Joanne is making a comment.
Why wouldn't it be a Connie intro?
I don't know.
Is there any rhyme or reason as far as like who does the intro for the episode?
For the most part, it seems to like kind of relate
at least
to
to
who
be
the focus
a
character. It's a weird. It's a weird move. Like
the Chris
last
intros
episode,
are for when Chris is a character.
Right, well, last episode we had a Chris intro, and she was like, so they could have done that again, or they could have done a Connie intro. I don't think Joanne's ever had an intro, but she's certainly eligible.
Yeah,
it's. I don't know. I was perplexed by the fact that it was a Wit intro.
Does Jack or Joanne?
I think Jack definitely has an intro.
And Joanne doesn't.
Maybe she does. I don't know. Tweet at us.
Please, yeah. At the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. Actually, just at Wad.
But like, don't actually feel obligation to tweet at us.
Nah, man, I'm cool with you feeling guilty.
It's like I feel like we hit on it so hard and so much that when I got all those responses, I was like, shoot. I mean, thanks for doing homework for me, but I don't need to force all of you guys to do this every time. I guess
not every time. No. But maybe a little bit.
All right.
Listen, you're part of a community. The Wad Fam Chalk Squad.
Yeah.
Are a tight-knit bunch.
Chalk Squad for short.
Exactly. We need merch. I know we can't, but I really would like it. Just for myself. I've got enough room to pimp out my own podcast on my laptop.
Oh my word.
If we could get a sticker.
All right. So it does the intro part, and then we jump back to them not being crashed at all. I guess they just swerved and made a big deal about it, but it's dumb. It's like it's like what especially older TV shows would do, like on a commercial break.
Yeah.
And then you
freeze
cut
frame.
back. Right. And then you cut back and things are fine.
Yeah.
But whatever. And
Interesting device.
And so they finally, Joanne's like, all right, we do need to actually pull over. And so they stop at a diner that's in the middle of nowhere.
Like middle of nowhere, like 5 miles from any house.
Yeah. And the owner of the diner, Ethel, explains that they were banking, her and her husband before he passed were banking on the interstate going through that spot.
Yeah.
And then it didn't. And so
they're just
nobody comes visit her.
Except for lost tourists.
Right.
And crazy people, I think is what she says.
And the big thing with Ethel is she's kind of backwoods, talking,
Southern.
whatever, but she uses presidents' names instead of profanity.
Or just like as an exclamation, like when she's scared, she just goes, like, Grover Cleveland.
Millard Fillmore.
Yeah.
It is... I genuinely kind of love it.
Oh, I like the bit. I'm here for it. And it's so, like, they use it so much that it's like, wow, she just keeps coming up with names. She doesn't reuse them.
And then she does the Spiro Agnew thing at the end, and Joanne's like, that's not a president. And she's like, occasionally I switch it up.
To vice presidents.
And I love that so much.
Yeah, you didn't say a president name. Yeah. My list, and I didn't get all of them, but I got most of them. Grover Cleveland, Rutherford B. Hayes, John Quincy Adams, Teddy Roosevelt, Calvin Coolidge, and then we get Spiro T. Agnew.
Yeah, there's definitely a Millard Fillmore, right?
Oh yeah, Millard Fillmore's in there. Yeah, I didn't write that one down because I wasn't sure if he was a president.
Yes, Millard Fillmore was a president, Andrew.
Listen, there's a lot of them, all right? I'm not going to know all of them.
Okay, really weird question here. Is there another episode of Odyssey in which there is a person who collects bobbleheads of presidents?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Millard Fillmore is a joke in that as well.
Yes. Yes, he is. Yeah. I forget what, but I'm tracking with you. Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's almost like it's the same writers or something.
Just making sure I'm not completely crazy.
Also, another thing about Ethel, she hates tea.
She does hate tea.
Joanne asks for tea, and she's like, no tea. Like,
yes.
Whoa.
There is a line that from the original broadcast version that was cut since then, in which so there's that line that seems completely out of nowhere now, but luckily the wiki cited why it was there in the first place. So, Connie, I think, the power goes out, and Connie comments on all the lights, giving it, making it feel like a French restaurant.
Yeah.
And Ethel has a line that's been cut where she says, I don't care for the French.
That would be so in character. Why didn't they leave it in? Why can't she be racist?
That was in the original airing, and they've dropped it every time since. Which is really funny.
I don't care. That makes so much more sense.
Yes.
Because it doesn't go acknowledged at all.
It's perfectly in character, and it makes sense that line wasn't acknowledged, because it was, and they cut it.
Oh, man.
But she also...
That's so good.
So, Ethel's voiced by Jennifer Darling, who has so many IMDb credits.
Anything recent of note?
So she's always just credited with additional voices.
Okay.
So she's basically doing background characters, doing screaming and things in every show imaginable. She also did a couple of the dubs for anime shows.
All right, wait, what's her name?
Jennifer Darling. It's not anything I recognized. there was like 2 or 3 shows where she was like credited as a character for the whole series, but it was an anime dub. And she also has some on-screen appearances, but yeah, she's like additional voices in The Iron Giant, or a voice in
She was a
Lilo
voice
and
in
Stitch.
Spirited Away.
Right, but it's just a voice. Like,
Yeah.
she's literally just like the background character who doesn't get named
Yeah.
in everything, which is like
159 credits.
oh yeah, and always just as like voice or additional voices.
Yeah.
Which is honestly an awesome career. Like, if you can make a living off of that, that's super cool.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so that's our backstory on Ethel.
Wow. There's okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's a lot of stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
her whole thing is like she's really like
Tight-fisted.
yeah,
She's
tight-fisted
stingy with
about
money. Like
yep, everything costs money.
yeah. Like even the bathroom.
Yep, you have to put a quarter in to get into the bathroom.
How very European of you for somebody who doesn't like the French.
They have to like leave if they like. It's a $5 minimum to be in the diner, even
Yeah.
though it is storming outside.
Yeah.
At one
Well,
point,
no, it's a $5. Oh yeah, I guess you have to order something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she's like, yeah, if you if you come here if you want anything to eat, and if you don't want anything to eat, leave.
you can walk right back out. And the other thing is the sundaes. She's like worried about the ice cream going bad. She's like, half price sundaes.
Yeah.
Like, all right, half price? But apparently, thanks again to the AIO wiki, her whole character is an homage to an episode of I Love Lucy, in which there is the episode's called First Stop, and it's people stopping on a road trip at a hotel.
I've seen
where,
that
like,
episode.
Everything is like
Yeah.
locked down, which also is probably the reason she's named Ethel.
That's nuts. Yeah, because I Love Lucy. Yeah. Lucy and Ethel.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Oh man. Back in my days when I used to watch I Love Lucy.
It's a fun. I don't know. It's a fun little thing.
No, that's awesome. That's super cool.
Anyways,
Yeah, so basically they come in, they've got to order food. Ethel's just kind of like giving background explanation of why the diner's there, what's in the middle of nowhere, and then this girl walks in out of the rain, and she's like, what, 10?
if that,
Yeah.
I guess she's gotta be.
I don't think she's in. I mean, I'm thinking like 5th to 7th grade.
Probably.
Somewhere
That's
in there.
probably pretty fair. Late elementary, early middle, somewhere in that.
She's been
ballpark.
So, comes in out of the rain, asks for food and whatever. Like,
I don't think she. I think she literally just like walks in and immediately everyone pounces on her and is like, "Oh, we got to get you dry."
Yeah,
and all of that stuff. And
well, because it's like a 12-year-old girl who's presumably drenched and completely alone.
Yeah, and there's nothing for 5 miles,
and they asked her where she came from, and she said, "Oh, I walked here," and then. When pressed a little bit further about calling their parents and stuff like that, she's like, "Oh, well, my dad's up a couple, my dad's still in the car. He's a couple miles up." And then they're like, "Oh, well, they'll call the police and get a tow truck." And she's like, "No, don't do that."
Yeah, well, and Joanne's like, "I can drive you back to
I'll drive you back to your dad.
We can."
All kinds of stuff. And she's like, well, I'll get food and bring it to him. And she's like, "No." And then... Is it then that it's revealed that her dad's not around?
Yep.
And that
she's never met her dad.
Yeah.
And her whole thing is that she's super unlucky.
Yeah, she's just bad luck. All of the bad things happened to her.
Her mom drove her, or she drove her mom away because she was unlucky. Her dad's got, she's never met her dad because she's unlucky. This whole storm is because as soon as she walks in, the power goes out in the building, and she's like, "That's my fault too."
Yeah.
That's kind of her whole thing.
Yeah, That's her shtick. So the power goes out. We get the candles. That's where we get Ethel not being racist, but being racist.
Yeah.
We get the half price sundaes because Connie, in attempts to be nice, is like, oh, like I think that ice cream goes well on rainy days, and I think games go well on rainy days, right?
Yep. Yeah. Which I don't know that I agree that ice cream's great for rainy days.
No, I don't.
That's not
I'm a
something
hot
I've
chocolate
ever
guy.
thought. I was gonna say hot chocolate
Is real good
acoustic
to me.
music.
Yep, that checks out. Yeah. Is that a playlist? You have a playlist that's like acoustic rainy? Oh, that's a Spotify playlist, isn't it?
That is my Spotify playlist.
Oh,
Acoustic music is meant for rainy days. I'll put a link in the show notes.
I know you will.
It's a really good one. I don't know. I like it. But
no,
yes,
no, I've listened
that
to
is.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is.
There you go.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's true. I genuinely I stand by that feeling.
Yes. No. I wasn't doing it entirely to show for my own playlist, but
also yes.
yes. So what am I if not self-promoting?
Nothing, to be honest with you. You might cease to exist.
Oh, so the thing here then is Lindy goes to the bathroom, but actually ends up taking off and running away, and Connie runs after her.
Yeah.
And pulls a really cool move where, like, Lindy doesn't really want to come back or whatever, and Connie's like, okay, I'll just walk with you.
Yeah.
So they're both walking through the storm, which I should mention sounds great.
Yeah. It's
This whole episode
raining.
is fantastic. Actually, on that,
The official guide coming out.
yeah. So on this whole thing about the sound being good and whatnot, there's a bit in the AIO or in the official guide where they're talking about that the lightning strike that hits the diner was recorded by Dave Arnold nearly 10 years before this episode.
Interesting.
So there was a storm just like at his house, I guess, and he was just like, I'm recording this. And
Standing
has
by
like
the window, mic in hand.
and has been using it for a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Because he was just like a good audio engineer and like had that foresight. He used it in the audio adaptation of A Christmas Carol, and like also it's the crack of the stone table in the audio version of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Like it's just, I don't know, it's a cool note in my opinion.
Yeah, and he
Just
was just like, it was a bad storm happening. He's like, I can use this.
yeah, that's my goal.
That's really cool.
But
And the chances that lightning actually strikes your house, because lightning doesn't strike my house often. Granted, I've got trees and stuff.
yeah, but no, that's fair. Like, and I don't know that how close it was, but it was close enough that he got a real good sound bite.
Yeah.
So eventually Connie's able to convince Lindy to come back to
Yep.
the diner.
Yeah, and they start playing games, right?
No, they're just kind of sitting around chatting, and then Connie brings up, I forget how she transitions into it, but Lindy's talking about this bad luck thing, and Connie is like, makes some mention of God.
Yeah.
I
and
forget
then Lindy
what
says, like, God, don't talk about God.
You know,
Well, she
he-
says, like, nobody loves her or something like that. Or, like,
Yeah, that's right. Her mom, because she's talking about all this bad luck and how it drove her mom away and all of these.
yeah. And
All
and
these
then I think
things.
Connie says something like, well, you can't drive God away. She's like,
Right.
don't even talk
Yes.
about God. And she's like, what?
Yeah, she's like,
God
God
hates
hates me. He gave me all this bad luck.
Yeah.
This is
She
also
lists off, like, thing after thing after thing. Like,
and this is also where we find out that her mom is dead.
yeah. So her dad left when she was born. Her mom worked
Right.
two
Or
jobs.
was
to
never
pay the
around.
Yeah.
Period. Like he could have left pre her being born. But-
Yeah. Her mom has to work two jobs to make
Yep.
ends meet. She is super tired. She gets leukemia. She dies.
Yeah.
And while she was alive, like whenever she would try and do something nice for her, she'd mess it up. Like mentions of like dropping a birthday cake, spilling stuff, whatever. And then going into going into foster care and that not really being good for her either, just because she's so unlucky.
Yeah, and then we
And then Connie tells her that she's wrong about God. And I'm like, oh boy. Please, that works great. like, I don't like God. And I'm like, well, you're wrong. What?
yeah,
That's cool. I mean, I get the sentiment, but also, oh boy.
yeah. And we get Connie then being like, well, like let's do an example. Like, you know, we're gonna use our imagination. She explains what the imagination station is, with Sen, Mr. Whitaker, all this stuff, and then
This is after they're like playing games and stuff.
yeah.
And so they use like their imagination to kind of go back into the story of Noah. And
Yeah.
it's really cool. Like so she says like, oh, my imagination is not that good. And then Joanne's like, oh, we should dust it off. And like,
And
slowly,
they rope Ethel into it.
yeah. And like Ethel's doing voices and Joanne's telling, Joanne's the voices too.
Yeah, so Connie's narrating.
Yes.
Joanne plays Noah and God.
Yeah.
And Ethel is all the mean people.
Yeah. All of them.
And it's really, really fun.
Yeah, well, and the like them warming up their imaginations and stuff like that's really cool. Yep. Like they're like clearing their minds and stuff, and then Connie like narrates like the beginning of the imagination station.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
and like the sounds and
the door
everything.
closing,
yeah.
and Lindy's like, I didn't hear it close, and then they do it again, and we get like the proper imagination station sound effects, and like
then it
push
booting up.
the red button, and we get all that. Like it's really,
it's so good. It's so cool. And then they go through the story of Noah, which is really awesome. And Connie narrates the whole thing, like we said. And
the sound is so
really good.
And all the people doing the voices are great. Like,
and it's kind of, I'm interested because so this is about her having bad luck, right?
Yeah.
Which Noah doesn't really have bad luck per se, but I guess what they're trying to say is like, Noah persevered even when things didn't look good, and I guess didn't lose sight of God, and I guess that's kind of what they want her to take away from it.
Yeah, it isn't a super direct line,
but but all the rain and everything, it fits well.
Yes.
It really does fit well.
And just imagine if they had done like Job.
Yeah, yeah,
like. Objectively more in line with the bad luck thing,
but also imagine you're covered in warts.
Well, not only is it like not fun to like
Ethel gets to voice Satan though,
right? But not only is it like not like visually appealing and that sort of thing, also this whole thing is Connie talking about how
God's still good. And then
it's about how, like, you know, your bad luck isn't a result of God and all that thing. And then it's like, cut to conversation between God and Satan where God's like,
yeah, you can
do it.
Yeah.
Like, that wouldn't be helpful in this scenario.
No.
Because it was literally my first thought when Connie was like, oh, we're going to do a Bible study. I was like, they gonna do Job?
Yeah.
Because that was, just my immediate thought when we're talking about the content of this. But I was like, this is gonna be interesting. And it's like, oh, it's Noah.
Oh, it's Noah.
All right.
Okay, we can do this. And they do a great job. And like, they do the quintessential like person who's not really a Christian but knows Bible stories thing really well.
Yeah.
Where she's like vaguely familiar with it, but then she gets more.
I think the same thing with Ethel. They don't really hit on it too much.
Yeah.
But Ethel's just good at playing like generally mean person. It's
just
really
like
fun.
just like her voice actor.
Yeah.
Just doing random voices in the back.
Yeah. But yeah, and so I was really, really happy with, like, my note here is Connie is a great wit surrogate.
Yeah.
And then Joanne makes a similar comment.
Yeah.
But I was like, shoot, if like they ever decide to, in continuity, kill off wit, how awesome would it be for
Dude,
Connie
Connie
to
to
take
be-
over?
She would be the only one I feel like that could.
I mean,
You could
No,
do
it-
the whole Jason Jack thing where you split it up, but
yeah, knowing but Jack's not even a character anymore.
oh, that's right, yeah.
But like,
Rip.
if I don't know, knowing the show, I feel like they'd probably give it to Eugene
Yeah.
because I don't know.
Do you think that they would? Do you think that they would write out Wit at the end if this current Wit?
I
dies?
don't, and we've talked about it in the past. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think that they're gonna write out Wit, but I was like, I nominate Connie to become Wit, but like, I don't know that folks on the family would be confident enough in that to like throw their weight behind it. Also, you probably, if we're gonna be fully honest here, if you're gonna like replace Wit again with like another character from the show, you should probably go with someone who's like a younger actor.
Yeah.
Not that
Yeah.
Katie Lee's like horribly old, but just like if you want
How old
this,
is she though? She's in her 60s.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually look it up because I'm gonna feel bad. She's 61, or no, she's 60 even. Anyways, so yeah, so she might not like she might be a good candidate. I don't know what the show's gonna do, but this episode at least made me feel like the character of Connie
Yeah.
would be a
Oh
really
yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you think about character of Connie has spent more time around Wit than probably
Yeah.
any other person.
Yeah, and it was like a really fun episode of her
Yeah.
getting to be Wit, because this episode has like 5 characters total, all of which are women,
Yeah.
which is super cool.
Yeah.
Like,
Good on
shout
them
out
for that.
to them on that, even though it was written and directed by a man, and Wit has the intro for some reason. The only
Can't give them everything.
the only characters are women.
Take it.
So yeah, take what you can get. But
yeah.
that being said, right after my comment about Wit or about Connie making a great Wit and whatever, Connie has a line that I'm uncomfortable with to a degree that she says to Lindy
About her
this
being
whole
God's purpose.
bad luck thing. No, not even at that point. She says God wants to provide help and comfort, but it's hard for him to do that when you keep talking about bad luck.
I don't think that's how God works.
No, I don't either. I think she said it to make a point and made that point correctly.
Yeah, it was more so. It was less of a theological thing and more of a principle
Yes.
thing. Where it's like God's there, you just have to let him in and stop just writing off like the hope that you want to have is in him, but you can't have that until you admit that you can have hope.
Yeah.
You know, and that
Yeah.
you aren't just 100% bad luck.
Right. Like
Which
it's
is fair.
Yeah. The sentiment I think was good. I just
But
read
like
that
bad
word.
luck.
I heard that wording and I was like,
If you believe
Right.
if you believe that
It's
you have
like-
bad luck, God can't help you.
right.
Oh, boy.
I was like, that is well,
Oh,
and it's
boy.
not even he can't help you. It's hard for him to.
Yeah.
And I was like,
This is a level 10 boss.
he wants to help you, but it's hard because of the bad luck.
He's
And
got
I
to
was
go
like,
to the gym
I
first
don't
and get big.
I don't think that's how God works. That he wants to do certain things but can't,
Yeah.
but it's a challenge. That seems wrong.
not omnipotent, I would say.
Yeah.
Um,
But anyways, so that was that. But then so Lindy's
bad luck is the level 10 monster.
yeah. There's this whole thing with Lindy then, being and Connie's like, and there's no such thing as bad luck, and Lindy's like, really? Like there's not? And
Yeah.
Connie was like, no, like that's just like superstition. Like, you're fine. Like
Yeah.
it's not you. At which point,
Her mom comes back, right?
yeah, her foster mom,
Yeah.
her 6th foster mom,
Good lord.
um,
It's a lot of foster moms.
shows up, and
It's so sweet.
this scene was surprisingly emotional for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because
Like
it was emotional for Lindy. It was emotional for Connie and
really
everybody
felt
that's watching.
for this foster mom who's been searching for the kid
Yeah.
that she has taken in.
And the daughter that it seems like she probably couldn't have daughters or like children of her own or something like that.
She makes mention specifically of how much of like an answered prayer Lindy is.
Yeah, like you're like the daughter I always wanted kind of situation.
And it's really good. The score is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think that also helps get me
Yeah.
to an emotional place, but also just like this
Really
great-
heartfelt story. And like in the face of like, so she comes in, is super sweet, saying like, I left everything. I got the neighbors to look for you.
Yeah.
Like everybody's
And
out here
Lindy's
looking for you.
so, like,
Such like a messianic
surprised.
figure where she's like coming in and like, no, like I want you. Like I want you specifically. And
Yep.
and then
And, like,
Lindy
I'm-
responds with like, even though I do all this stuff, like I've I spilled paint in the garage. He's like, you spilled paint in the garage? I still want you. Like,
Right. Yeah,
And
it's
it's
like
so good.
she wants her, and you get this feeling from Lindy of like
want
no
you.
one's ever like put forward this much effort for her,
yeah, exactly.
where it's like, or like her mom did, but like it's just like to see someone who is going out in the rain, has rounded up all the neighbors, like
yeah.
and really wants her, and even mentions like, you know, we've talked to the state about trying to keep you.
Yeah.
Like they're
To give somebody value who feels like they don't have value.
yeah.
I
And
think is really
Of all the
for
stuff,
me really emotional.
yeah, it's great.
Oh, I'm sad now.
Yeah, and there's so much stuff that, especially on this show and other places and whatnot, that we criticize Christian media for the way it handles, but like Christian media has such a good representation of foster care, which is not a thing that is really
Yeah. Anywhere
that
else.
is really represented in media. Like you think a lot of times about like Christian media being pretty exclusionary,
Yeah.
because it is, but also like this is not a thing that is commonly covered. You don't see in a lot of mainstream media.
Well, the
and you don't-
cynical look at foster care is all the dysfunction and
Right.
the good things that can come from that.
Yeah.
And like, the plot that you can make from that. Whereas with Christianity, like foster care is meant to point to Christ. And so its own, like, if it's used and it's used in that respect, it's going to put it in a good light. And I think that's important because foster care is really valuable and does put, like, it is reflecting of Christ and, like, taking care of the widows and orphans.
Yeah, it's really, really good representation here
Yeah.
of something I feel like doesn't get the spotlight on it enough.
Gosh dang it, the Fosters on Freeform. Why you gotta ruin foster care?
I didn't know that was a thing, but
It
I'm
is.
Yeah,
It's yeah.
Yeah.
Granted, I haven't seen that show a ton, but it
yeah,
it leaves a bit to be desired.
yeah. But yeah, that was kind of my note there. And then of course to close things out, there's a rainbow.
Yep.
Storm has ended. Lindy and her foster mom Terry are leaving, and there's a rainbow.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Get it? Because Noah.
Yes. Yes, we get it. I'm really proud of them for not telegraphing that harder.
Yeah.
For just being like, the audience gets it. Like, they don't include that part of the story when
And
Connie's
doesn't,
talking
it
about
doesn't go on and Connie being like, just like Noah. And then,
Right.
da-da,
Yeah.
da.
And
This
then,
episode of Adventures in Odyssey was brought to you by expository writing.
yeah. And then Joanne and Connie have to hang out at Ethel's a little bit longer because there's a foot of mud that Joanne's car is stuck in.
Yeah.
So they're going to get it towed.
And they have milkshakes.
Yeah, and so they get milkshakes because the ice cream's melted. And this is the point at which Joanne mentions, like, oh, Connie, like, I saw a lot of wit in you there.
Yeah.
Which is
It's a good moment.
is really sweet. I liked it a lot. And
That's it.
That's
and
the
the
episode.
the Chris wrap up is
Yeah.
pretty basic. We already kind of talked about it.
yeah, it's such a, like, small episode.
It
and
is
I really
very-
like it.
Yeah. I would
Like,
say that, like,
There are 5 characters, and wit
One
is
setting.
mentioned.
Yeah.
It all takes place, right, on the road or in the room. Like, it's in our Connie and Mitch stuff. It does not mention Mitch.
Yeah.
Like, but I think it...
but it
Yeah.
does what Odyssey does well, where it's like, we get a big, like, we get to explore this universe
Right.
more within the lens of these familiar characters, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
And, like,
And
this
develop
isn't a proper spoiler, but, like, none of, like, Ethel, Lindy, Terry, none of them come back in any way.
No.
Like, they're just one-off characters that are, like, interesting and showcase, you know, Connie's skill, but, like, also just tell a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's very
it's a
good,
fun
I
episode.
think. Do you have any closing thoughts on it? More than than what we've already
No,
said?
I think those are my my closing thoughts.
Yeah, me too.
But
It's very, very good. Top notch episode, I think.
yeah, big fan. Oh, here, this will be my closing thought. There's a line that was said by Ethel that I didn't get to reference earlier. I don't know what the context is, but she said so that something makes as much sense as shag linoleum.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the second time linoleum's mentioned in the.
That is true, because it's
in the
new
episode.
linoleum, and also about as much sense as shag linoleum.
She's basically like Bernard.
She is, yeah,
Very Bernard.
yeah, she is very.
I miss
Bernard.
Bernard. We need some more Bernard
Yeah.
episodes.
All right, coming up next, Bernard episodes. No, coming up. Oh, actually, do you have plugs?
Nope.
Yeah, me either.
We're boring people.
We need to do more
I've
stuff.
been busy.
Well, that's the problem. Is summer? It's just like I've got so many other balls in the air that trying to like.
I'm
make-
promoting my garden. My cucumbers are doing dynamite. My tomatoes, great. Vines are as thick as my thumb. Come August, boy, they're gonna be big and red. If we get a Patreon, I'll throw some pics up there for the kids, for the Chalk Squad to
Do
see.
not expect a Patreon.
No, there's not gonna be a
There's-
Patreon.
It's just a good.
We could
thing.
actually just use our Instagram though. We do have one of those.
That's true. Yeah, the Wad Fam Chalk Pod on Instagram. It's said in every closing thing. I did stuff on it 2 times. I posted like visual versions of the promos.
Yeah.
because I thought that might be fun, but it's just not worth the work.
No, we
So.
should just post random pictures and or merch. Get it, merch, please.
Stop
Tweet
it
at us.
with the merch. All right. So that is it for this episode, and we'll be back next week with episode 530, Silver Lining. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Wadfam Chalk Pod is a presentation of the Linux Podcast Co-op. This show is a fan podcast and has no official affiliation with Adventures in Odyssey or Focus on the Family. As such, the copyright is ours under Creative Commons. Follow the podcast at wadfamchalkpod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com. Episode 36, Black Clouds, was hosted by Dylan Weaver and Andrew Sabo, and edited by Dylan Weaver. And I'm Nathan Haverstick, hoping you'll join us next time for more of the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.